Who do we send the bill to?
I'm ready to go with cough drops.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, March the 26th. It's 5:03. This is the regular Tuesday meeting. And let us start with a pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Riddell.
Here.
Commissioner Moore.
Here.
Mr. Hong.
Here.
We have a presentation today from Carrie Broom, the Director of Lorain County Historical Society, on our 200th Bicentennial Traveling Exhibit.
Good evening, Chair.
Hello, thank you, Commissioners. I'm happy to be with you this afternoon. The mission of the Lorain County Historical Society is to preserve and share the history of Lorain County. So I'm so glad to have this opportunity to present the new traveling exhibit for the county bicentennial. To just give you a little bit of background about this project and to thank you for making the exhibit possible. So hopefully you've all had a chance to check out the display downstairs in the lobby here in the administration building. It's pretty hard to miss the exhibit. Hopefully you've seen it. So the idea for an exhibit to celebrate the county bicentennial was first discussed nearly 3 years ago in meetings of the different historical societies around the county. The Lorain County Historical Society took the lead in organizing the project. So in thinking about what was important for such an exhibit, we wanted something that could easily be transported to different sites around the county and put on display in libraries, schools, museums, different community centers, and town halls. And the final design of the traveling exhibit has 3 single-sided 8-foot panels that can be configured in several different ways depending upon where it's located. Each panel's a metal frame, has a fabric overlay, and it goes together really quickly. It only took us, I think, about 10 minutes to put it together downstairs. And it can be moved around in just a regular car. So other consideration was how to condense over 2 centuries of our rich history into such a portable exhibit. So after a discussion, we decided to create something that's really just an illustrated timeline that highlights as many of the people and places and events that have shaped the county over the last 200 years as was possible in such kind of a small space. Then we put a call out to our different partners in local history across the county to find out what they thought was important. Then we worked with a professional museum exhibit design company to just put it all together. So I wanted to mention a few things about the actual contents. The exhibit starts with a quote from Kurt Russell, who was, he's the history teacher at Oberlin High School, who was recognized as National Teacher of the Year in 2022. That's on panel 1. That panel also has information about state legislation that created the county in 1822 and 1824. You'll also see those founding documents are screened on the background of all 3 panels. Panel 2 spans 1865 to 1955, and much of that information is about industrial expansion that was happening at that time. And then panel 3 has establishment of some of our really familiar institutions like the Metro Parks, LCCC, and the International Festival. But of course, there's just so much more that we would love to be able to feature, but it's just simply not possible. So, it's not that big of a display. We do hope that folks that see the display use the interactive Post-it notes that are provided, that they share what's important to them about county history. So please, everybody, feel free to add what you would like. And then leave that as feedback. We think that makes it more meaningful, and it also gives us feedback for future exhibits. So lastly, and most importantly, the next step is to get this exhibit out in the communities so that the citizens of the county can see it. So it's going to be here in the lobby through, I think, the middle of next week. And then we're going to take it on the road. So if there's a place that you would like to see it, let us know, and we'll figure out how to make it happen there. We're gonna also make sure it's here downtown for the May 24th festivities. We have the lending documents already in place. We're gonna have a calendar. So we want as many people as possible to see it in their communities. So once again, I just want to thank you for your support of this very important exhibit.
Congratulations.
Well, I'd like to say, thank you, but I'd also like to thank the Bicentennial Committee and the Lorain County Visitors Bureau for funding the project. That's who funded it. Also, the Lorain County Historical Society for their creativity on the timeline. Because I know you have a lot of volunteers. I think it was Amanda was here. So just really with all the volunteers that you guys did, and the funding did come from the Lorain County Visitors Bureau. So I just want to thank everybody because there was a lot of people that were involved in this. So, and this display is ready to go all over the county, right?
It sure is. Mhm.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
Anyone else?
No? Karen, did you find your birthday on the chart? Oh,
And it's downstairs for how long? Till what? Next Friday or
I think through next Thursday.
or next Thursday? Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
The next presentation is Bobby Taylor from Lorain County Community Action on the youth mentoring results.
thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Bobby Taylor, the Director of Planning and Community Services with Lorain County Community Action Agency. And I'm grateful for the time that you allow me to say thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. It was because of your generous investment in our vision that we were able to provide a high-quality and impactful summer mentoring program. With your allocation of ARPA funds, Community Action partnered with Men of Courage to assist young men and women with seeing their value and seeing the possibilities in their future. The program was designed after our 2022 Community Needs Assessment showed that younger adults in Lorain County were having trouble breaking into the workforce. The 2023 Youth Mentoring and Development Program included college tours, visits to local businesses, and guest speakers. Mentors who have partnered with Men of Courage also provided stories of inspiration. The program served a total of 27 young men and women of the proposed 20 participants, with youth as young as 8th grade and as old as 1 year out of high school. 18 of those youth completed the entire 12-session series. Participants received a stipend for each session that they attended. These stipends were used for school supplies and clothing for this current school year. We chose Men of Courage because of their known work in the area elementary, middle, and high schools. They mentor students in the Lorain, Oberlin, Elyria, and Clearview school districts in Lorain County, and also have a presence in Cleveland and Columbus. During our program, we had 25 guest speakers who discussed a variety of careers and other topics. We did 6 college visits that offered youth a chance to see facilities, learn about programs, and discover a range of possibilities. And we had 7 company tours, including several owned by guest speakers. And you can see the complete list of each on pages 4 and 5 in our report. Mentoring sessions were also held at our Ron Nabokowski Youth Center in Lorain, with transportation provided by our 2 vans. The youth mentoring series included goal setting, withstanding peer pressure, stay free of drugs and alcohol, police relations, anger management, sexual integrity, and financial literacy, all using an evidence-based curriculum. And most importantly, the youth themselves, along with their parents, spoke highly of the program. We included some of their quotes in our report. My favorite was from Gregory, who said, "If obstacles come up in my life, I remember what they said." This quote to me lets me know the lessons learned will have a lasting power in the lives of our participants. So on behalf of Lorain County Community Action Agency, the Men of Courage, the participants, and their families, we want to give you all a special acknowledgement of gratitude for your support. and we look forward to our continued partnership in providing hope and opportunity to our residents.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby.
Good job.
Yeah. If I may say,
Yeah.
when we went through those ARPA Rescue Plan Grant Funding Acts, gosh, I don't even know when that was. That was the fall of '22, probably.
Yep,
August. Oh, yeah.
late 22.
And just seeing the collaboration here, because, not everybody got a huge sum of money, but it may have been 10,000 or 5,000, but just seeing the collaboration here from the groups and that you all work together. And then we've talked about this many times, like with the Neighborhood Alliance, with the kitchen and all that. Just seeing the ARPA dollars coming to fruition on these projects is great to have that feedback. And it's great for the public. You're coming out here and saying, look, this is what we did with the money. So, thank you.
And $10,000 of that was for the stipends. So, the kids were able to take advantage of that, and it was very helpful. So,
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for giving us an update.
you're welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Under resolutions, number 1, investments.
Move to approve.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Number 2, appropriations.
Move to approve.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Number 3, transfers.
Seriously, don't you start down there, because then I'm gonna start.
Move to approve.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Number 4, advances, repayments.
Move to approve.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Number 5, requisitions.
That's page 1 of 2. Any discussion on page 1?
Yes. Mr. President. Casey, could you just go over line 804? We have an ARPA reimbursement and the truck, and I know that was a big thing at the time.
Certainly, yeah, so that's, this is more of an issue of accounting. So 766,000, give or take, was awarded to EMA for the purchase of a trailer unit. So that, at the time that money was transferred over to EMA, through work along with the auditor's team, we deciphered that we need to issue the payment back out of ARPA. So this is essentially EMA cutting a check of those ARPA funds back to the ARPA fund, so that we can make that expenditure out of the ARPA account. So again, this is just a matter of internal accounting to ensure that we're expending the money out of the proper place.
Thank you, and I understood they had the truck already on order, so this was the trailer that went
Correct,
with
and I
the truck.
believe the trailer is either in transit or will soon be in transit up from Florida.
Well, it's gonna be quite the photo op to let the
Think
public
it'll
see
be
what
here
the
for
upper
the
dollars
eclipse?
went for, yeah.
I don't know that yet.
Yeah, usually Director Freeman's here, so we would have asked him for kind of the timeline on when he thought that was gonna be in. Thank you.
Page 2? Any questions or discussion on page 2? Being done, motion to approve pages 1 and 2.
Second.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Number 6, travel.
We have 2 pages.
Second page, Victor. Any discussion? I think we'll notice that the Jobs and Family Services folks are continuing their training. And hopefully this year they'll come back with another 6 awards.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Number 7, bills.
Okay, this is the general fund, page 1. Can we have page 2? Okay, page 3. You notice this starts the special revenue funds. Each one is designated. And we have page 4. And page 5. Any discussion, anything material, commissioners? Move to approve?
Second.
Discussion. Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Number 8, county commissioners may recess in executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, along with any other matters as specifically identified by motion in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code 121.22G 1 through 8, unless expressly stated otherwise during executive session. Matters discussed in executive session are designated by the county commissioners as confidential. Because the confidentiality of such matters is necessary for the proper conduct of government business, any disclosure outside of the executive session is prohibited by ORC 102.03B. While in executive session, the county commissioners may discuss and deliberate on the matter at issue, but no votes may be taken until open session resumes.
Move to approve the personnel summary sheet, if you could put it under the camera.
Lucky Mr. Greenspan.
I guess I made a motion, just gotta wait for a second.
Second.
Discussion.
Thank you.
Discussion. The WAC actually disbanded a committee.
Until disbanded.
Mr. President, I see, Ms. Barker is moving on to, another opportunity, and I would like to, I've worked with her since I started in January of '21, and I would like to thank Tiffany Barker for her service to the residents of Lorain County here at the Commissioner's office.
Any other discussion? We have a motion, right?
And a
Second?
second.
Motion and a second. Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
C, public comment on agenda items.
Mayor, would you like to, we'll tee you up, we'll move to item 15, and you will start with your public comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Riddell. First and foremost, I want to thank Ms. Novak, Ms. Perkins, gentleman from Viad, and throughout the first few months of my administration, Mr. Armbruster, for the collaboration as well as the county commissioners on a number of different projects. Primarily, coming up on the agenda item is item 15, the microtransit program. With Elyria and Lorain, specifically to Elyria. I'm not sure how many people know how important this is to the city of Elyria. By condensing our transit program down and working with the Lorain County Commissioners and Lorain County Transit to provide transportation within the city of Elyria to all of our residents, not just our most needy, but all residents, availability to take them to and from any place in the city of Elyria. As I believe it'll commence in July, from my understanding. This is huge to our city. It's a great program that's going to come to our city. We're looking forward to working with the transit on this. This is something the city of Elyria is not in a position to do. We have tried to put a stopgap in place with the loss of Aldi's and putting one of our only transportation van for our seniors out on the road 2 days a week to try to get people from South Branch of the library to Aldi's. And quite honestly, there's not any that I can think of in the last 3 weeks that have taken advantage of it. It's not something we're good at. The Lorain County Transit is good at it. This will certainly, we will likely do away with our end of it because this is the program that we need to be in collaboration with and to utilize for our residents of the city of Elyria. But I thank the commissioners for consideration on item 15. I think item 16 is also tied to this to a degree. But I want to thank the 3 people I spoke with and Ms. Choi from the United Way, our transportation manager, here in the county for their support in this. So thank you. I look forward to your support on items 15 and 16. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
City Councilmember Brad Armstrong, you're good? Okay.
Is there any old business, or do we want to do
Old business.
old
We'll
business?
just keep it in order.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any old business?
Nope.
No?
10 days till the eclipse.
Board business, number 9, approve and waive the reading in the County Commissioners meeting minutes of March 15th of 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Commissioner Riddell,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Hahn.
Abstain? I wasn't here.
That's, yeah, I know. I just was moving on already. Number 10, on table resolution 24-182, adopted March 15th of 2024, approved 2024 general fund budget.
Moved on table.
Second?
Discussion.
Discussion.
Oh, there's
We
no
have done table first.
Commissioner Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Hung,
Yes.
Commissioner Riddell.
Aye.
Now, approve the 2024 general fund budget.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
If we, I talked to Casey earlier to make sure with this new process that we're implementing, change is very difficult. And the 2024-25 budget, I should say 25 budget, when's that gonna be due, like July of this year? So everybody, all the electeds and all the directors all have the new forms that we're gonna be using, correct?
They've seen the new forms through our budget discussion, because we started to utilize those on our end, for the analysis. So they've all seen the new format. We will, coming up probably in the next month or so, we will be sending out copies of those, or I guess blank copies of those for the departments to use moving forward.
Which is gonna be extremely detailed in regards to budget request, correct? I was hoping to
That's
have a
the plan,
copy of it
yeah.
here, we'd show it, but, I guess we're not ready for showtime on that yet, right?
I'd like to run it by you guys to get your guys' final approval and sign off.
Very good. Anything notable about the budget, Commissioner?
Did you have anything? Commissioner Riddell?
Nope.
Oh, you didn't? Okay. The only question I had a lot of questions for Casey in the past couple of days on this. Is this Friday's minutes, or was this Tuesday's minutes?
This is Friday.
This was Friday's. Okay, but there was a law firm hired, so that's what I'm trying to get back to that. So that should be in here.
This is the budget.
Oh, yeah, and it does pertain to that. It absolutely does pertain to that. So I was just trying to see where that law firm was. Well, anyways, one of the questions I was asking Casey about, so typically, in the past, and I asked Casey before this round of commissioners, which is Commissioner Lorain and I starting in 2021, how often he recalled budget meetings happening. So I kind of got you down to, Casey, your recollection of it. So we can say safely, the board before us, which was 4 years before us, we did not have budget meetings. And then once we started, we had the electeds in those departments come in, and they would come up here and kind of just run down what they're spending their money on, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's historically, there had been budget hearings in the past, but, in my time with the county, we had not had budget hearings until, I guess that would have been 21, I believe was, Tracy, you may recall, I'm not sure when those budget hearings.
This is in November of 21.
Well, prior to that though, I think there had occasionally had budget hearings and then they'd stopped for several years, so.
About a decade.
Well, they.
Probably,
they
I know we had
budget.
them 17,
Yeah.
18, 19, and then, yeah.
Well, you just said you didn't remember them, Casey, but maybe that's because you weren't here. Because then we started, we gave you your little nameplate and you sat up here with us.
Yeah.
So,
Like I said,
but you remember them,
21 was-
Teresa?
I have them all, I mean,
Oh, so there were separate budget hearings. Okay. That was my question
There
that you and I
were,
were
but
talking
again,
about.
that's not in the time that I had been with the county.
Yeah, and I do think, Commissioner Moore, they had passed a temporary budget, and then when we had started, we did have some sort of budget meetings, I recall, before we passed the full budget. So, the complete budget, so where I was going with this, and Casey and I had this conversation today, was that the public has seen, whether it be in the fall or early in the year, where the electeds and the officials or department heads would come in and talk about the things that they spend money on, quite frankly. So the people could see, those that chose to come to a meeting like they did today, or go on the YouTube, and I know we don't have a huge thousands of YouTube following, but there may have been those folks that would have liked to have seen that, and we did not have that for the 2024 budget for those folks to come in and make their presentation. So that led me to some questions with KC on certain budget items, and I think the one that was kind of stewing around in my brain after our conversation yesterday was the prosecutor's office and having him come over, and I know that's the courts and the prosecutor's office are usually a big thing that people like to hear about. And let's see if I can find, the question that I had was on the prosecutors. His went up $200,000. Can you speak to why that one went up? And we didn't have a budget meeting, so he could speak for himself, or maybe Dan, does anybody know why that went up $200,000?
I'm not involved in the budget for our office.
Okay. Now I'm looking for the piece of paper, Casey, from the prosecutor's office. So, do you have any idea, Casey, for the public?
I'm not, like I said, I would have to go back and find, because I know we had talked prior, about an hour ago, whatever. I would have to go back and find what those additional appropriations were, and what the timing of those additional appropriations were. So I think we said that the approved budget was 5.1, give or take, and I think the actual spend ended up being 5.3 for the prosecutor's office. So
one way on the bottom.
I don't have
Okay.
what specifically those additional appropriations would have been for.
Okay.
That would take some digging on my end.
So, I guess I had to ask you point blank, does this have anything to do with this $100,000 in this lawsuit that now the commissioners are we're named in this lawsuit? Does this this increase have anything to do with that?
I can't speak to that. Like I said, we again, we discussed at October 17th when that specific settlement was approved. There was no additional appropriations that were made at that time in the budget. There was some account transfers that occurred, but there was no additional appropriations at that time. So again, where the additional appropriations came from that got us from 5.1 to 5.3, I can't see at this time. I don't see any direct line to that specific.
Okay, it would have been easier if we had him here to.
Yeah, Commissioner, to answer both of your questions, when the commissioners did approve the permission to the prosecutor's office to settle a pending potential litigation by not having to go to court, they made an economic evaluation, and we did not appropriate any additional money, so that their settlement has nothing to do with the $200,000 increase for 2024, which is largely due to filling some positions that were not filled last year. When Casey and I reworked our budget issue, we didn't go back to everybody's ask for the last 5 years. We went back to what they actually spent. And so their budget for this year is $200,000 more than they actually spent last year. And the expectation is that they will fill some of those slots that have been difficult for them to fill, so that they can do their job. But it has nothing to do with the settlement that they reached internally. We as commissioners, we acted on that some months ago, and there was no additional appropriation involved in that.
Is this for this year's budget?
Yeah, I was just asking about the increase.
I will say, this part I can't tell you. That one of the things that happened was Cuyahoga County went up in their prosecutor's office 7% across the board and $10,000 for each job. And that has made it very difficult for us to both hire and retain people. So our office made a fairly significant move on the salary side this year. So I don't know the numbers, I don't get involved in the budgets, but we asked for a fairly significant increase to try and fill positions that are
Yeah.
the professional positions. It may be that, but I don't know. But we did make that move on the salary side.
Right.
Okay, so if I could ping pong off you, Mr. President, and what you said, so that money in the budget that went to, I do understand it was a 40 and a 20, 40 for the settlement, 20 for the attorney, and then the other came out of Mr. Tomlinson's, Prosecutor Tomlinson's payroll. So Commissioner Riddell, you mentioned that there was a demand, and in lieu of going to court, I found out about this, and I know you and I have talked about this, Dan, 15 to 20 minutes before the meeting, and then the requisitions were set for the day, and then it was added about half an hour, 20 minutes before the meeting. So Commissioner Riddell, if you could speak to that demand letter, because I never saw the demand.
I don't believe it was a demand. You'd have to ask that to Prosecutor Tomlinson. All I'm doing is saying that we're on the budget, and this is not a budget issue. This had no impact on the budget. The prosecutor reallocated funds within his budget, and you would have to ask him where they came from and how they arrived at their decision. But like anybody that gets sued or has pending or potential lawsuit, if you get a settlement that appears to be radically different and lower than what you're going to spend in attorney fees, you make a business decision, and you either go to litigate or you pay to avoid the litigation. So, but that's a question. That whole process is a question for the prosecutor, and not for us. We are not engaged, and it does not have any budget impact.
Correct, and we didn't have him here to talk about this stuff. So then that takes us to the legislation on the 15th with Wicker's, Perzer and Panzer. Yeah, so when that came in, Dan, I called over to Miss Barber, I believe was her name, and that came in, and that was in February, and I asked her where the contract was with Mr. Tomlinson's office, because we had not seen a contract on it, and how were we going to pay for it? So that came into me, and she told me that Mr. Tomlinson had privately retained himself individually. So then I saw on Friday that the county is now paying for representation that he retained individually. So I'm just trying to figure out how this happened and who's going to pay for it.
Wickens Herzer was retained by my office so that the elected prosecutor could obtain outside legal advice in handling a public records lawsuit. And it was determined that it would be best that advice come from, that JD should get outside advice so that he knew how to best handle some of the questions raised by the public records request and the lawsuit. And that was Wickens' job in that relationship. I am not involved in that, and I was not involved in the work done by Wickens. So those would be questions. I mean, you can talk to JD about that. I don't know. I don't even know the lawyer at Wickens Herzer who's doing the work.
So when I called her and she said he retained them personally, and she wasn't going to give me a copy of the contract, then I look on the docket and I see the 312 filing notice of withdrawal of counsel filed by Defendant Tomlinson. So he withdrew his personal counsel, and then a resolution was passed then to have the taxpayers pay for his counsel. That's what it's looking like to me. So I'm just trying to figure out where the money's coming from.
I believe that Wickens was retained to provide the office with advice on how to respond to a public record. I don't know if that was artfully stated on the phone call. I wasn't part of the phone call. I haven't talked to the lawyer. I think that my understanding from JD is that he determined that the lawyer retained by Corsa to defend us in the office in the public records lawsuit would be sufficient for those purposes. And as I understand it, although I don't know this, he no longer feels that it's necessary to maintain the relationship with Wickens. But that's a question really ought to ask JD about, because I'm not involved in it.
But then we passed it on the 15th, so if he doesn't want them, why are we passing it?
Because they did the work.
Oh, okay, so the work in between we're paying for somebody that the prosecutor had individually retained.
I think the office retained it. I don't know what the woman said on the phone. I don't know.
Yeah, she wouldn't give, I asked her to just send over a copy of the contract, and she refused on that basis, that it was.
No, I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, all right, that answers that question. So then when I was looking over the docket today on that, I guess I'm trying to figure out how in the heck did this get on the requisitions in the first place and why it wasn't passed on the resolutions? That's the other part I was trying to get to, the 40 and the 20, and that half an hour to an hour. Who was it that ordered it to actually go on the requisitions and have it be paid that way? And why didn't we do it in a resolution? Do you know, Dan?
No, I think that was the way that it's done by the fiscal people. I'm not involved in the fiscal side of it.
So you're saying you don't know who ordered it to be put on?
Correct.
Okay. I'm just curious, I was just wondering because we're being sued. As commissioners, we're being sued and we're getting dragged into this, and I kind of don't understand why.
I would say that I agree with you.
Okay.
Any other comment? Pertaining to the budget, that is.
Well, I
Okay.
guess certainly we missed Recorder Duran talking about his scanning system, which was always a big thing he liked to talk about.
We can still talk about it
He could.
in his own time.
Yes, and for the record, I would like to note that the prosecutor's increase was one of the more moderate of the departments that put in their budget, and that secondly, the entire budget that we are deliberating at this moment was part of our meeting record back in July. It was also part of our meeting record back in November, and it has been on the website, and that I have had 0 inquiries from anybody for additional information other than what we posted. So I took that as that the public saw what we were doing, that we were funding what the departments asked for, that we were online to not deficit spend and kick into our carryover. And they must have been satisfied with what we were doing because they didn't tell us otherwise. And when the public feels otherwise, they usually speak up.
I do want to give a shout out of when we couldn't vote because we didn't have a full board here. Jacob Smith called very upset. He expected, because he runs I hate to say a lean ship as an Army guy, but he's very in tune with his budget, very in tune. He is the only one to call and say, why didn't we vote? Why didn't we approve this budget? Because that's how lean he runs his ship. So I'm very proud. And when he was shocked today when I told him that, he did not expect. He figured we were getting a lot of heat from every elected official and every director because we have to pass the budget today in order for everybody for the government to continue in April. And so I do want to give a nice shout out to Jacob because he's doing an excellent job managing our Veterans Services Department. So just to let everybody know, that was the only call I received.
No,
Thank you.
And a thank you to Jacob too with his work. Well, I told him when I saw him recently on the honor fund. But I would like to add, Mr. President, I think that your explanation was very good and very thorough for the public. And I know that you were very hands-on in this process.
You're welcome.
Thank you on behalf of the residents, I guess is what I'm saying.
Is there anything further? Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Under 911-11, approve a letter of understanding between Lorain County Board of Commissioners and Fraternal Order of Police, Ohio Labor Council, for the purpose of addressing holiday time use for employees of Lorain County 911.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Community Development, 12, implementing sections 3735.65 through 3735.70 of the Ohio Revised Code establishing and describing the boundaries of the community reinvestment area in Elyria Township, designation of housing officer to administer the program, and create a community reinvestment housing council and a tax incentive review council.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion.
Yes. I guess Andrew Lippian from our Community Development Department is here today. He has something to add to our discussion.
Right, yes, I do, and I have sitting beside me, you all know, thank you. And I have sitting beside me, everyone knows Don Romanchek, the Community Development Coordinator. Commissioners, today for your approval, we bring a community reinvestment area. This is a tax incentive to spur economic development. A little history on what's coming before you today. On 12 February of this year, the Elyria Township trustees formally passed a resolution requesting the commissioners establish the township-wide community reinvestment area, which is what this is being called. The CRA has been under development of our department for 3 years, and it's a relay race across staff, guided under Mr. Duncan and Mr. Romanchek's leadership, in accordance with the commissioner's mission to boost economic development. So what is a CRA? It's an example of a carrot, or economic incentive to encourage development in Elyria Township. This CRA before you today is only for industrial or commercial development, so either improvements on existing structures or new construction. And the big takeaway is, under the CRA, the increase in assessed value is exempt from real property taxes up to 75% and up to 15 years. So today we would only be approving the CRA to establish the parameters for future agreements between the township and the county. So a future business, once successfully engaging with the county and the township on what percentage exemption or how many years, would present an agreement to the commissioners empowering you to grant any commercial or industrial improvement in Elyria Township on a case-by-case basis. So to close up, if approved, this would be a groundbreaking measure. It would be the first time Lorain County has established a CRA. If successful, this CRA may prove a touchstone, offering a template for other Lorain County communities to utilize this for economic growth. Economic development tools like the CRA can attract business growth, continuing to make Lorain County the fastest growing county north of Columbus, encouraging reinvestment within established areas, and it's an implementable policy that supports the county's recently unveiled strategic plan, doing things differently and encouraging reinvestment in our established communities to preserve and enhance the quality of those communities. It is important to note that this is only for residential. This does not, include residential development that was not requested by the township. However, this will be further covered during pillar discussions for a strategic plan on housing to be determined. And should citizens be interested in programs to assist with owning a home, Ohio Treasurer Sprague has a tax advantage savings account for Ohioans to use in home buying, giving access to above market interest rates and certain Ohio State income tax deductions. For further information, ohiotreasurer.gov/homebuyerplus. I want to thank, on behalf of the Community Development Department, the commissioners for your consideration. Thanks to Clerk Teresa Upton and Administrator Armbruster and the Lorain County prosecutors for working with us on this resolution. And very importantly, thank you to Elyria Township trustees Bill Holtzman and Rick Hutman, who are here in the room with us today. And we thank them for coming and working with us on this, and we yield to any questions.
So the trustees are happy with this, I take it? This is the first one?
Yeah, we think it's a good first step to see some development in our town.
Okay.
Anything else you'd like to say for the record since you made the trip?
Just thanks for everybody's effort. It's been a long process, but we got her done and looking forward to the future.
I think hopefully the rest of the townships will benefit, you know? We'll see what you guys, this is the first, right? This is our first attempt. But this one here, you can usually, you know, a lot of times when we do this, this is what I was talking to Andrew, you guys did not want it, you wanted it just for industrial, correct? That's all you did not want it for housing. That was
In general business.
right, in general business. Now it does have the ability to do that. So there is other options with this program. So I'd like to thank the community development with the partnerships you guys did form with us. So thank you.
Is there anything further? Commissioner Moore?
Aye,
Commissioner Riddell?
All right.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
good job.
Number 13. Number 13, Crime Lab entering a sub-grant award agreement with Ohio Department of Public Safety, Ohio American Rescue Plan Funding 2022 grant program in the amount of $425,000. This will be applied towards the equipment to improve the laboratory efficiency and decrease the backlog of testing for the crime drug lab. Authorize administrator to execute the document, and this will be paid from the Public Safety Equipment Crime Lab account.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion.
I'd like to note for the record that, Mr. Armbruster, we're in the process of changing this to the forensic lab, and I think we ought to start with ourselves. But we've also talked to Director Jillian about, she's in the middle of creating a comprehensive plan on what would it take for the department to meet all the expectations of our local law enforcement. Right now, there's a backlog. It continues to stay there. It doesn't seem to shrink. And with all of the forensic work that's being asked for by the coroner and by the police departments and so forth, this is state ARPA money, but we still have a role to play here in the county that we need to be looking at how to fully fund her department so that they can give the timely support so that things can move through the judicial system much faster and not have to wait on technical information from the forensics lab. So,
Yeah, I was down there in the basement again, and got another quick tour of the new equipment. And one of the ideas that she had was possibilities of doing DNA testing. If we'd be the only ones up here doing it, and we could be another revenue stream to help them become self-funded. So there's a lot of exciting things going on in the basement. I'd like to see him on the fifth. I'd like to see him in the fifth floor in the Justice Center. But
on the
that's
lower
me.
level,
Well, whatever.
the lower level.
They want windows, and you can't do windows.
The button on the elevator says LL.
All I'm saying is it would be nice to see him on the fifth floor. So.
Commissioner, I think
We can hear you. We can hear you, Jeff. Go ahead.
so. I mean, with as much work and remodeling we've done there, let's get them with the THC. Let's use the equipment and let it grow down there, and I think we'll be just fine. Honestly, we will.
But remind Jillian that somewhere in April, we expect a presentation on what her goals are to support the rest of the law enforcement and judicial community and what we need to do to support her.
And this new piece of equipment, because it quantifies, one of the things it does, quantifies THC. So with the backlog that's sitting there, she's gonna be able to quantify a lot of other things and get to the backlog with this piece of equipment. The DNA that you're talking about is another piece that we're gonna be asking for a grant to get us that, and you are correct. Other than Miami or BCI, we would be the ones to have it. And professionally down there, with her degrees and the people that are actually there, they're all degreed scientists, you might say, from college, and they do a fabulous job in what they do.
Very highly qualified. How's that?
I go down and look, and I'm thinking, I don't think I could sit here in front of this and do all this analysis, but they do a good job down there.
That's why we want to call it the forensics lab. It's not the crime lab. They're not committing crimes down there. Okay.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Under Job and Family Services, 14, amend Resolution 23-734, adopted October 17th of 2023, authorizing Lorain County Safe Harbor to provide shelter for domestic violence victims and domestic violence victim families in Lorain County using TANF and Title 20 funds. Said amendment is to increase the contract by $320,000 for the total contract amount not to exceed $512,500, and this will be paid from the TANF account.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Under Transit, 15, approve and enter an agreement with River North Transit LLC, a wholly owned subsidiary of Vi Transportation, Inc., in the amount of $2,124,500 to provide a one-year microtransit pilot project within the cities of Elyria and Lorain. Microtransit system services will be provided within the cities of Elyria and Lorain Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 6:30 p.m., effective July 8th of 2024 through July 7th of 2025, and this will be paid from the vehicle repair account.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion.
Are we using this as an advance, or or is this coming out of our transit account, right? The account, it says account repair.
out of the transit.
Okay, because
fund.
the main thing I like, when I kind of talked about this when and Karen's seen me get frustrated for the last year, that, the budget's around $5 million is what we get in grants every year. And if we can stay there and provide micro transit services, that was the goal about a year ago as we started pushing this, right?
Right.
Okay. Sorry, I want to segue back and we'll let our experts talk, I guess.
Okay.
Sorry. Who wants to go first? You want to pass over the microphone, or do you guys want to come up to the counter? Okay.
Need to stand up.
Thanks for sitting in the front row.
Oh, thank you, Commissioners. Like Commissioner Moore mentioned, we have been having discussions about how we can better serve communities. The transit system, which currently is running 2 hours on a fixed route, it's just too long for people to have to wait or to be on the bus. So we have been trying to figure out ways that we could better serve the public. We heard about microtransit, and so we started getting demos on it, and we do feel that this is a really good opportunity, especially for the citizens of Lorain and Elyria, that they can actually just call, get a ride within 10, 15 minutes. The resolutions that we have, the budget that we have provided is all being covered through our federal grants, state grants. We were also awarded $125,000 from ODOT, or the Ohio Department of Transportation, through a partnership grant that we applied for. So with everything, this is all going to be under the transit budget, and because of getting the additional grant funding, we were able to not have to come back to the commissioners and request for general fund to cover. So I am going to turn this over to Sarge, who is going to explain what microtransit is, as well as what service areas we're looking to cover, and if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ben. Commissioners, thank you so much for the time here. Just to introduce myself again, my name is Sarge Cossett. I'm with VIA Transportation. Our subsidiary, River North LLC, is mentioned in the agenda. We're very excited about the opportunity to provide microtransit service here in Lorain County, specifically in the cities of Lorain and Elyria. I have a short presentation prepared to kind of explain what microtransit is, how it works, how riders will use the service to book their rides, and just generally how the service will sort of function around Lorain County, and I'm happy to answer any questions. To get started, I think it's really important to lay the foundation that public transit is a very important part of our society. As you think about investments in public transit, there's specifically defined ROIs. For every dollar invested in public transit, we see $5 of economic returns. Generally, a household can save about $13,000 a year by using public transportation rather than having to go through the process of owning a car and maintaining that vehicle, fueling it, et cetera. Home values near public transportation tend to go up about 24% near public transportation compared to other areas that are not as close to a bus stop or a train stop. And generally, traveling by public transportation is quite a bit safer than traveling in a personal vehicle. So I think the case for public transit is there. And typically, when you think about public transit, you think about large buses and large trains. But over the last 5 years or so, a new form of transit called microtransit has really started to become part of the forefront of the transit conversation. And the question is, first, what is microtransit? So microtransit is an on-demand public transportation system that uses technology to dynamically route vehicles to pick up and drop off passengers from where they are to where they need to go. If you've ever used an Uber or Lyft, it's very similar to those types of rideshare programs, but I think there's some very key differences that I've outlined over here. So number one, the rides that you take with microtransit are more often than not shared. And so as you're moving from your origin to your destination, generally if there's other folks that are traveling in the same direction, the vehicles will be routed such that you're picking up multiple people along the way. The service is also accessible to many types of riders. So, for example, with traditional rideshare services, your only option to book a ride is using a smartphone. But with microtransit, we understand that public transit needs to be accessible to everyone, and including people that don't own smartphones, can't afford smartphones, so you have the ability to call in to book a ride as well. The vehicles themselves are also wheelchair accessible, and so for folks that have mobility challenges or in a wheelchair that still want to use the service, they'll be able to use this microtransit service as well. The fleet of vehicles that we'll be using for microtransit will be branded and dedicated specifically to Lorain County. So it's not going to be our drivers that are going to be coming and bringing their personal vehicles. We'll have a fleet of maintained and branded and wrapped vehicles that'll be providing the service. The drivers that are conducting the vehicles, they are FTA compliant in the sense they are background checked, they're drug and alcohol and background checked for compliance through the FTA. And then finally, the fare itself is very similar to public transit. So whereas with typical rideshare programs, the price you pay for that ride may be dependent on the amount of demand there is at that time, typically the fare for a microtransit ride is similar to public transit. If you're paying $2 for the bus, you're typically paying $2 for microtransit. And we're seeing microtransit in particular take off across Ohio. So VIA in particular, we've been partnering with a number of different transit agencies across the state. We, for example, partner and power the microtransit program operated by TARTA in Toledo, Delaware County, and kind of south of here in Delaware County, with BCRTA outside of Cincinnati and Cincinnati itself. There's a number of different programs around the state that are starting to think about and operate microtransit, and VIA has become a very big part of those operations and the software powering those transit modes. For Lorain County in particular, we're providing what we're calling our turnkey solution. So VIA is going to come in and provide end-to-end everything that is needed to provide a microtransit service in the cities of Lorain and Elyria. That includes drivers and vehicles, all the customer service and dispatch that's required, the ability for VIA to come in and provide rider engagement and community outreach services, and also providing future grant and funding support through our grants and public policy team. And as we put this service on the ground, we have a very strong focus on local. We think it's very important that we're hiring local drivers. We're providing access to local jobs through our transit system, and also local retail. We'll be partnering with local organizations to market the service and provide advertising services as well for those local businesses. And a lot of the maintenance and the upkeep that we do for the system is going to also be happening locally. So we'll look for local auto mechanics and repair shops and ways that we can kind of contribute back to the community as we kind of set up and maintain this program. And as we do it really well, if we do it really well, which we have done, around 70 or 80 different places around the country, we see some really great and significant results. So in Wilson, North Carolina, where we're running a similar program, about 52% of the trips are actually taking people to and from work. In Birmingham, Alabama, another area where it was difficult to take buses that were, where folks would have to walk 30 minutes to an hour to get to a bus route. Now we've made more jobs accessible, 80% jobs more accessible within 30 minutes. And in Chandler, Arizona, we think this is a fairly unique use case. Chandler's right outside of Phoenix, a suburb of Phoenix, and we found that 54% of the trips were taken to and from school. So this is really helping working parents who are not able to help their kids go to after-school activities, for example, or get home after school because they're working late, have a reliable way to kind of access those extracurriculars or get back home in a safe way. And if we zoom out kind of more broadly to all of the microtransit services we power across the country, which is about 250 at this point, we've seen some really great statistics on how we've made transit more affordable, more equitable, more reliable. You'll see that about 80% of our riders make less than $50,000 a year. 30% of our riders have some type of a disability that prevents them from accessing typical public transit. And then finally, again, 60% of our riders are using this service to get to work. So we think it's going to be a really great service in both the cities of Lorain and Elyria. Any questions so far that I can answer? Great.
Not on 15.
All right, perfect. So quickly, just the overall kind of system and how it's going to function from a rider's perspective. We think that's going to be very important for us to come in and provide really strong engagement with the community, getting everybody aware of how the service works. So, VIA, we're going to partner with, Lorain County Transit and the various stakeholders here in the county to run social media campaigns. We'll do community engagement sessions at senior centers. We'll plan to, have events such as a launch event to make sure that the word gets out and leave flyers in grocery stores and other points of interest that are really important for members in the community. Once people find out about the service, we want them to be able to have multiple ways to book rides. They can either use a white labeled smartphone application, which they can download on their iPhone or their smartphone. And again, if they don't have a smartphone, they're able to call in to book that ride if they're not able to do that through technology. And the app itself is going to be, again, branded for Lorain County Transit. It's very simple. Again, if you've used Uber or Lyft, the interface is similar. I think there's some key differences, but generally you'll input your origin, your destination. The system will find the vehicle that's closest to you to be able to complete that ride, and you'll be able to pay for that ride directly through the app. So it's not necessarily having to use cash. You can use a credit card. You can use a debit card or other modes of payment. And then finally, one important piece here too is that we're creating a system that involves what we call virtual bus stops. So for the efficiency of the system to allow these vehicles that are picking up and dropping off passengers dynamically. We'll ask riders to generally walk a short distance to a shared corner to be able to catch that shared ride. The reason for this is it allows the vehicles to travel in a more direct fashion, not go on side streets and higher traffic areas, and overall improve the efficiency of the system. Now, for riders that do have mobility challenges, we will provide door-to-door or curb-to-curb service, and we want to make sure that everybody, again, is able to access the system. And just to kind of highlight again, we want this to be public transit, and public transit inherently is accessible to all members of the community, so we've built the system in the same way. Wheelchair accessible vehicles, options for riders that are not banked to pay in cash, being able to call in if you don't have a smartphone, and then multilingual rider apps, so if you have a community that's speaking Spanish, you can also have the app available in Spanish. And then being able to keep riders apprised of their rides in multiple forms. So again, if you don't have a smartphone, we can send an automatic phone call to your landline telling you that your ride's 5 minutes away or 10 minutes away, and that your ride's kind of outside and ready for you to take. And as we kind of did the analysis around, where does it make sense to do microtransit in Elyria and Lorain, a lot of our partners think about, targeting certain very specific areas, but looking at kind of the demographics, where residents are living in poverty, where senior citizens live, car-free households, people living with disabilities, we found that, providing this service across the entire city limits of both Lorain and Elyria would make a lot of sense. So that's the plan for the pilot here, to allow anybody within the city limits of Lorain and Elyria to be able to access the service. The service will be on demand. Like we mentioned before, it's going to be available from 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. And our target wait time from the time that you request a ride to the time that the vehicle arrives is going to be between 15 and 20 minutes. And I've outlined the budget here, and I'm happy to answer any questions, but overall, the not-to-exceed cost for the year one pilot across the cities of Elyria and the city of Lorain will be $2.12 million. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
I have a question, but jumping ahead to number 16 a little bit. You have a one-year pilot program proposal, but you have a 3-year dispatch system proposal. So how are we going to balance those?
With items 16 and 17, currently Lorain County Transit does not have any type of technology on their vehicles, and which makes it difficult for reporting purposes to our federal and state reporting agencies, funding agencies. Part of VIA's contract, up in number 15, does include the cost for a scheduling software. But what we would like to do is we'd like to extend that to using it on our dial-a-ride service as well. So it's the same software being used across the board. The second part on here is a planning software. So while we're running the year, a pilot project for a year, we're going to start collecting data for where people are coming from and where people are going to. And then what we're going to do is go through an entire process of restructuring our current routes so that now we can start getting more efficient with our system. So those two are pertaining to something completely opposite or on a different scale from the VIA contract itself. So people will be able to still call and schedule trips, or likewise, they'll be able to get on the app. They can schedule their trips. They can pay for their trips. So it just kind of makes it more, bringing the technology into the system that we've lacked for a while.
Well, as you do the new system, which is much larger and more extensive, won't you be folding the dial-a-ride into that? You're not going to maintain two separate systems, are you?
No, when the pilot project is complete, then we will still be using Remix as our scheduling software. So that's why we have a 3-year term, so that we can continue using it on our own as well, so.
Yeah, I would say the dial-a-ride system itself is a county-wide system, whereas the microtransit system we're describing in item number 15 is specific to just those two cities. And so the dial-a-ride program would still need to exist to serve the residents that are looking for mobility outside of those two cities, if that makes sense.
But within the two cities, won't that kind of umbrella the dial-a-ride?
We would still have for the dial-a-ride within those two cities, even within the microtransit service area. We have a lot of residents that currently use dial-a-ride that don't necessarily need it. So we're trying to use the microtransit service to get people off of our dial-a-ride, get them to even like our fixed route services. But they're still gonna need to schedule their trips either way, but it's just the Remix software itself, it's easier to say.
Yeah, what I'll say too is this is fairly common where you have a dial-a-ride service that's serving the entire county and then local microtransit programs. I think what the dial-a-ride service does that the microtransit service does not is it allows people to pre-book their rides. So we see a lot of senior citizens, folks that are going to dialysis appointments on a regular basis, for example, need to schedule those appointments in advance. And that's where the dial-a-ride service works really well for that part of the community. The microtransit service is for more spontaneous travel. So people are using it to get to work in the morning or get to the grocery store. That's kind of I need to travel now, that's when I'm gonna book my ride, versus folks that need to schedule for a doctor's appointment in advance. And so I think the dial-a-ride service still does serve an important piece of the community, an important use case, and getting people, right to know that they've scheduled their trip a week in advance to make sure that they get to their doctor's appointment on time. Versus microtransit, again, that's on-demand travel.
But the way this was explained, though, we're supposed to integrate this with our fixed routes. And I thought we're gonna do a lot better on our 2-hour waits on our fixed routes also, so.
Yeah, well, first of all, we've got to make sure that we know where the people are coming from and where they're going to. While we were running the microtransit service, that's where we're going to be collecting all the data, which is also, again, where the software will give us that ability to know where we need to place those fixed routes. So once the pilot project is complete, then we'll be able to have come back to you and say, okay, this is how we feel that we can restructure our system. So we're still gonna run the fixed routes, we'll still be running our demand response service, but it gives us that ability to make the systems more efficient.
So if you're in Elyria or Lorain, you can call the microtransit number. And then let's just say they're gonna take you to Aldi's, okay, because that's the issue right now.
Right.
Then what? After they're done shopping, do they make another phone call and expect to get picked up?
Yes, they could do that. They could even pre-schedule it, so if they know exactly how long they're gonna be there.
So they could say in 1 hour, come back and.
Right. Mhm.
Your system should be able to manage. That's what you guys explained to me, was that the software and the system is very, I don't wanna say high-tech, but it's pretty good at analyzing data and organizing the routes, so that
Correct.
people aren't waiting 2 hours.
Correct.
That's right.
Nowaka gave the city of Lorain a lot of money, and I think, when was that supposed to even start, 27?
We can start applying for those funds in 2026.
Yeah, so this is kinda why, I kinda jumped in and said that's way too long to wait. And so I do appreciate all the hard work, but I'm just still, I haven't been happy throughout this process, because I was trying to get our fixed routes down to a 15 to 20 minute rate, and I think we're all fighting because I don't think it can happen. So hopefully this will work,
Yes, I believe that once, like I say, once we start getting all this data and we know exactly where everyone's coming from, the whole point was so that we could then look at where we need to put the routes. So we already had the idea with the information that the city of Lorain put together as to where they would like the transit routes to be. So we will be able to move forward with that. But we can also look at where are the routes currently in Elyria, where are we not going that needs to serve businesses, the healthcare industry, and so on.
Well, the main thing is we're staying within the transit budget, that's number one. Okay, we're not experimenting with new money, we're using the system that has not worked for, I feel, for 20 years. At least it works, but it's not
Right.
I mean, it'd be full if it was working like every 15, 20 minutes, right? It just isn't, I just don't think the communities are being serviced properly, so I shouldn't have said, you know, we hope, you know, the bottom line is what we're doing is not working.
Correct.
And, we feel, there's been a lot of talking and very heated, because I'm pretty blunt, as you know. And, I feel that this is probably the best shot we got to have a system that will help the communities that need it the most. How's that sound?
Yes.
Sorry if I'm hogging here. Go ahead.
No. Well, any further discussion? Nope.
Commissioner Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Hung,
Yes,
Commissioner Riddell.
Aye.
Thank you.
thank you.
Number, s-
Still two more.
Number 16, approve and enter an agreement with Via Mobility LLC for software in the amount of $194,840 as a service license for demand response scheduling and dispatching for a 3-year term. Software will provide riders with the ability to book their own trips through an app for scheduling dollar ride trips, and this will be paid from computer software account.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
And also too, Mr. President, we did, Karen, when you presented this to us, just to make sure, because we see app in here, we have folks that don't have the technology, can you address that again? Just
Yes,
real
ma'am.
quick, to have it on the
So-
record?
The Lorain County Transit telephone number, you can still call that number in order to get dial-a-ride or any information for a fixed route. Pam, you're going to have to remind me what the phone number is.
440
440
365
365
0224.
0224.
And wait till July, all right?
Yes.
True, yeah.
Well, no, I mean, you can still call for dial-a-ride
We
right
still
now.
call the dial
Yeah.
But yeah, for those folks that don't do the app, they can still use the landline.
Anything further? Commissioner Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Hung,
Yes,
Commissioner Riddell.
Aye.
Number 17, approve and enter an agreement with Remix Technologies LLC in the amount of $68,000 for software as a service license route planning and scheduling software for a 3-year term. Software will allow restructure of its fixed route services and data is collected during the microtransit pilot program, and this will be paid from the computer software account.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion.
I'd like to thank Mayor Brubaker and City Council Member Brad Armstrong for their participation. I know this was, especially Brad, I know this is probably his 3rd or 4th meeting in regards to this, and our public hearing I count behind, so I do appreciate you guys keeping the pressure on us.
Anything further?
Mr. President, along with the thanks, thank you to Pam. This was a huge undertaking, our Director, Transit. I want to make sure she gets the love and gets the recognition for all her hard work.
Thank you.
And all we ask is a 6-month report in January of '25.
That's all.
Yeah, it's sooner than that, because we'll start collecting the data right away.
Okay.
Thanks for coming in from Chicago tonight. I know you
Thank you.
Commissioner Moore. Commissioner Hung,
Yes,
Commissioner Riddell.
Aye.
we heard that, Karen.
Under the airport, 18, approve and enter an agreement with Wallace Panzer Group, Mansfield, in the amount of $60,207 to develop improvement plans for the rehabilitation of a portion of the main apron Phase 2 at the Lorain County Regional Airport. The project includes engineering services, which will be funded 95% state share, and authorized payment from LCRA Professional Services account.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell.
Aye.
Commissioner Hung.
Yes,
Engineer 19, finding that public convenience and welfare requires the removal and replacement of the Chestnut Ridge Road Bridge number 0531 in the city of North Ridgeville. Estimated cost is $50,000 and authorize engineer to advertise for bids.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion.
yes. Bob, Engineer Kleiber, last year, I think it was last year, we had passed a resurfacing for Chestnut Ridge Road, which still has not happened, probably about a year and a half ago. Do you have a progress report on that and how it's gonna coincide with this bridge?
The resurfacing of Chestnut Road is in the township. This bridge is in the city of North Ridgefield. There's no conflict.
So we're not working together. When is it? It's been a long time. When are they gonna start working on that?
Which on Chestnut?
The resurfacing, yeah.
Usually when we apply for federal funds, you're 4 to 5 years out.
Okay, so let's not get too excited yet. Okay.
Anything further? Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Rodello?
Aye.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
20, approve and enter a contract with Agreement Peterson, Inc. in the amount of $44,359 to provide construction administration and inspection services for LOR CR 204-4.12 project in Elyria Township. ODOT District 3 has reviewed the proposal and prepared a contract between Agreement Peterson, Inc. and the county, and 80% will be funded by ODOT, 20% will be paid from the professional services account.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Commissioner Rodello?
Aye.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
21, authorize ODOT to review and approve a posted speed limit of 45 miles per hour for Darrow Road, Township Road 14 from the Erie County line to Gore Orphanage Road, Brownhill Township, as recommended by the speed zone study performed by the county engineer.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Rodello?
Aye.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
22, authorize ODOT to review and approve a posted speed limit of 45 miles per hour for Gore Orphanage Road, Township Road 34, from the North Ridge Road to Darrow Road, Brownhill Township, as recommended by the speed zone study performed by the county engineer.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Rodello?
Aye.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
Under the Sheriff, 23, entering agreements with Enterprise Fleet Management for the sale and lease of vehicles, and Geotab for telemax of vehicles for the Lorain County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff's Office is in need of to replace 22 fully equipped vehicles in 2024 from Enterprise Fleet Management at a price not to exceed $170,917. The lease cost for the 22 fleet vehicles in 2025 is estimated to be $235,860 annually for the life of the contract. Geotab will collect telemax data for various purposes, estimated to be $5,040 annually for the life of the contract. These contracts are 5-year periods and paid from the equipment leases and equipment accounts.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes. Today I was at the Avon Lake Sheffield Village and Sheffield Lake event from the Chamber for the mayors, and they brought this up. Other communities are starting to follow, the lead with the Sheriff's Department and our County Administrator at the Enterprise. So it's nice to see the other local officials are starting to catch on that this is probably a very economically fiscal ways to rotate our fleets. So it's nice to see other communities are starting to, follow the work that you guys started, so. What's that?
You wish to make any additional comment?
Just thank you.
So Captain Ashdown, do you think this is going to be less work on you annually, or does it, I know you did a lot of work with forecasting where you were going to order the cars from.
Brandon and I will still have quite a bit of work, but it'll make the tracking a lot easier, and it's nice having the input from Enterprise and their connections with manufacturers directly to help us get these put on the streets faster.
Because as I recall, you had, what we all knew was the inventory issue with car dealerships around the country.
Yeah, it'll probably take them another year or two, but they are getting back on track with that, so.
Okay.
It's been surprisingly working out for us.
That's good to hear, if it's easier for you, if it's, well, less work, I guess.
Are the local car dealers engaged with Enterprise?
But
Yes, they are. So we actually have our vehicles even drop shipped to different dealerships here in Lorain County to help support the communities as well. And that does give something back to them when they're being drop shipped there. So we're still keeping them involved. And then if anything ever does happen where we need to get one out of stock immediately, we have those relationships just from the rental side of the business, which I'm sure most of you know it's more of that. And we utilize them when we need to.
So it sounds like you're getting more calls, I take it, from other
I am.
local
And
communities?
I'm in this area quite a bit.
Okay, very good.
I appreciate it.
Maybe we can get a discount? Like a finder's fee?
Mr. President?
No discounts.
Yes. Yes,
Yes,
Commissioner.
Sharon, as you were saying that, and then your counterpart there was saying, is there anything in the pipeline that is on order that we are waiting for, vehicle-wise,
Well, the
from before, the way we used to do it before? Does that
no,
make
the
sense?
resolution that we have on the table today is what we had in place, what we discussed earlier, or at the end of the year last year. And after reviewing our fleet and having some conversations, there's actually been a reduction on those first 2 years to help level out that 5-year project.
Thank you.
Jeez. We get a discount from Enterprise, and Captain Ashcroft is gonna reduce his pay because he's got less work to do.
Captain Ashcroft.
We're just making money hand over fist up here.
Ashcroft, he doesn't care if Ashcroft reduces his pay.
No.
Ashdown,
Down, excuse me, Ashdown.
Tomato.
I'll get it right.
Is there anything further?
No.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddell?
Aye.
Commissioner Hung?
Yes.
County Administrator?
Ashcroft was the
Great.
guy.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Well, we
So
could-
as you know, and yesterday, we had the Future Summit related to the strategic plan. We had over 200 people show up, which I thought was a phenomenal turnout, as did Future IQ. It culminated the major first phase, obviously, of identifying a pathway for us to move forward on the strategic plan. It did also include, and I'll have a presentation here soon, which will give some numbers, but we had over 2,000 individuals respond to the survey. We had about 500 people, including yesterday, show up to the various in-person events throughout the county over the last 7 months, which I think is very impressive and shows the strength and the desire for there to be a strategic plan and move the county collaboratively together. So the next steps are going to be, and the future, by the way, the final report will be released this week. Yesterday, there was an exercise to help prioritize the pillars and some of the discussion points, and that information is being compiled now and will be available in the final report any day now. So where do we go from here? We're going to set up a series of pillar discussions. The calendar has already been set for 6. The first one will be on transit, kind of parlaying off the decision you voted earlier this evening, because that subject seemed to come up at every single event that we had, the importance of transit. So that'll be the first pillar discussion. The others will revolve around workforce development, economic development, affordable housing, a lot of the items that were discussed in the session. So we have 2 scheduled in April, 1 in May, 2 in June. That's 5, and 1 in July. And we'll continue to schedule those out. Those are not intended to be the only meeting we're going to have on transit. That'll be the first one, but because we're going to set goals and follow through on the commitment to provide a better of whatever the subject is, right? Whether it's transit or affordable housing or workforce development. So I'm encouraged by the participation we've had so far, and I believe we can look forward to some robust discussion and concrete plans moving forward. But the first phase of the strategic plan, I would say, is 99% complete until the report is released. And then really some of the heavy lifting is going to begin after that, which will be in the next months and not just the 3 months I outlined, but throughout the end of the year and probably into next year. Because if we're talking about refocusing and focusing the county in a new way, it's not going to happen overnight. And I think we need to be patient, and we are, and thoughtful and deliberate in our approach. So I want to give you that brief update, and I'll be back with a more detailed outline. But the report should be available by Thursday online. It's about 50 pages, and it'll have detailed information, a lot more than I've just explained this evening.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Just a couple of quick things. First, I want to thank Pam and Sarge as well, especially Pam. She and I, along with Tiffany, actually have been working hard for the last 6 to 8 months under Mr. Moore's whip, trying to make sure that we can get some changes in transit. So, again, thank you, Pam. What we do have coming, in addition to our microtransit service, is the Easy Fare, which I've talked to you about that as well. So hopefully, before the end of the year, we will be able to implement Easy Fare, which is basically being able to use your phone as a bus ticket. Of course, there'll be an app, and it'll just make it easier for everybody to be able to access the bus by just downloading the app, getting an account set up, and being able to activate that ticket when you're ready to use it. Because I think you got to use it within 30 minutes after it's activated or something like that. Yeah. So hopefully we'll be able to introduce a couple of other new things for transit. Also, just to piggyback off of Captain Ashdown, the Facilities Department got its first F-250, brand new F-250 with a plow package that was installed by Jedco, our local vendor. We've been waiting 6, maybe 7 months for this truck. So it's been ordered. We've had to wait for the manufacturer to build it in order to get them rolled out. I hear tell that we have at least 5 or 6 additional vehicles over at Jedco waiting to come into the fleet. So we're pretty excited about that. And that completes my report.
To add to enterprise, I mean, quite honestly, I think in the sheriff's department, we ended up with, how many vehicles?
22.
22? And we originally were ordering 31 over the next 2 years, correct?
Correct.
So we actually got some additional cars delivered, vehicles delivered this year, more than we would have anticipated, and we took them in the process of bringing them on. So Enterprise, with their purchasing power and how they can get cars and trucks delivered and use their purchasing power, certainly has helped us in this county. And I'm happy to see that other townships and other cities are taking a look at this and seeing how it does work. That was the intent, bringing it to North Ridgeville to begin with, then bringing it over here to the county, and then growing the system here as we are using it to help others to save money. Taking it to the next level, Karen and I, on April 4th, will be again traveling to Detroit to the Federal Aviation Agency to talk to Karen's friends, not mine necessarily friends, new friends, old friends of Karen's, and to discuss complete that release of the non-aviation land, and also the upcoming master plan that will be. We've selected a vendor. We've got to bring it back to the county commissioner. We're going to make sure that they're on board with the vendor as that we process, because it's their approval too in the process of this. Bringing it back to the commission for the moving forward of the updating of the master plan for the airport. Most recently, Don Calvert gave us a call from the city of Elyria, along with Mayor Brubaker, in a request to visit Elyria Foundry. Actually, Jim Miller and I had some conversations as to the possibility of land bank. They've got some buildings over there that are actually in blighted areas that are absolutely in very, very poor condition, and have been, not recently, but probably 30 years ago. They were unusable at that point. And I'm not sure if that's the exact date, but it's been going back. We are going to visit and take a complete tour of that facility. There is possibilities for expansion at Elyria Foundry. I was with the president and their human resources person the other day, and we're all going to go back, meet with the mayor, Dawn, the president, and the human resources, Karen, myself, and land bank, to go back and actually tour the entire facility, as well as the buildings that we're going to maybe earmark to use land bank money to tear down for future expansion in that facility, to grow the economics and not just have scorched land, but have an ability to grow the business over there at Elyria Foundry. Most recently, last Friday, Karen put together, and the team of Tina Morris, who's our new grant writer, and she's got a whole team of people that write grants. They finished the request for Senator Sherrod Brown for earmarks, There were 3 requests over there that we made. One, to help us out with the towers, if there's a possibility in the community homeland security side. Second, in HUD for mega site acquiring of land. And the third would be the Baumhart Road sewer to help the environment in that process. So they were actually, had to be there Friday at midnight. I was in Washington over the weekend. I did not stop at Sherrod Brown's office to see if they got them, but I can only tell you that he does have them. And they look forward to hopefully giving them some, we're able to get some of this grant money from the federal government and from Sheridan this way. And the last one is we've got, Karen and I were at the Lions Club. We've got I didn't realize that the Lions Club, every Lions Club has their own pin. And so we've got the Lorain's Lions Club pin. Karen and I went the other day and spoke to 26 Lions and talked about the sewer and things that were happening, and it was a lot of fun because we could work one another as the presentation. It wasn't just a written presentation. We did it on a stand-up, and we had a lot of fun doing it. And there was a lot of questions on their end to bring them up to date, not only on the sewer project 6119, but also on the radios. There was quite a few questions with regards to the towers that we're building, the infrastructure that we're setting up, and those type of questions. This completes our report this evening.
Thank you.
I have nothing, board correspondence.
Move to suspend the reading of the board correspondence.
Motion to
I'll move to waive the reading of the board correspondence.
There you go.
Second.
discussion. Commissioner Moore. Commissioner Hahn.
Yes.
Commissioner Riddell.
Aye.
New business.
I was looking for a place to, I was already trying to think ahead, and I'm out of places to ask this, so, Bob, as we've traveled the county and we're following behind you on the gas, the license plate, highway, road tax, that whole issue.
Permissive tax.
Permissive tax. One of the things that we're getting is we're getting a lot of questions on the ditch cleaning. So I was wondering if maybe 2 weeks from tonight, if you folks might have the ability to bring us a rough agenda of what you expect to do in 2024 timetable. We've allocated that money through ARPA, and we've got to make sure that it's found a home by the end of this year.
Yeah, probably have to work along with Mr. Romanchik.
Absolutely, but while I have both of you together, I go to one meeting and he says it's your job, and I go to another meeting and you say it's his job, so.
I've had that same experience.
I now have public verification that the two of you do know each other, so, we expect to see both of you back here in 2 weeks with some kind of an idea that we can explain so that you can establish trust for the license plate permissive tax that you're looking to do.
We'll be here.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes.
on another new business, I didn't know if I should interject there, Dave, when you were, Mr. Greenspan, when you were doing your presentation on the summit, and I did not get to go yesterday because I was still fighting the sinus infection, but there was a nice article in the newspaper today, a nice photo of the team there, so you may, I guess, be interested, would you be interested in getting out to some of the smaller newspapers, your update and the stories? Again, we've kind of talked about that, maybe getting something prepared so the administrator can kind of ship that out to the Westlife and the other review type news in senior years.
Yeah, Commissioner, President.
Yes.
We'll be, once we get all the final data, which we're compiling right now, we'll put together a summary, and we'll work with our communications team, and we'll put out a press release summarizing what's gone on, and then obviously we need to start promoting the next round of meetings, which I have a call tomorrow to discuss just that. So yeah, we'll be glad to put that together. As far as going around to other communities, I'll be glad to share whatever information we have around the county, and go to events and do whatever we need to do to promote the next phase of the strategic plan.
Thanks for all your work on that. Appreciate it.
Chuck?
I'll say it, public comment?
Well,
Well, I was going to, and then he just said Chuck, so I just figured, okay, I'm just gonna go with it. I mean,
that's right. You had 15 seconds while he walked up.
Hey, I was not slow. Good evening, Commissioners. Chuck Brookie, Business Manager for Laborers Union Local 758 here in Lorain County. I'm here tonight to ask Commissioners to proclaim April 15th to the 19th, 2024 as National Work Zone Awareness Week, and urge all citizens to pay attention, slow down, and thank all road workers in Lorain County for their service. Since 2019, there have been over 24,000 work zone crashes in Ohio, in which workers were present in nearly 40% of those intrusions. Construction laborers are often the most vulnerable in the event of a work zone intrusion, and they work tirelessly in the elements, often extreme, to improve the infrastructure for the public overall. So I ask that the Commissioners proudly honor our fallen work zone workers and the safety of those currently working on our roads during National Work Zone Awareness Week. It's sadly, this happens every year. I myself have witnessed 3 deaths in work zones, and it's getting worse over the years. Just today, we lost 6 on a bridge in Baltimore. So if I could give this one of your assistants to run through you, or the clerk, and ask that you proclaim that week for us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Come to our-
Chuck.
Maybe our next meeting the 9th.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
Yes, we're in.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
We're adjourned.
We're adjourned.
you could have, but, yeah. He's like, nope, we're adjourned.
So if I want to request the 23 and the 24 approved budget, what's the process? Am I sending them, her, or what?
Yeah.
Is that what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Because the other day you told me to send it to you, or I could come up and ask for it. So
Yeah.
I just want to make sure it's processed.
No.
I know, I'll get them. I just want to make sure it's processed.
Commissioner Duffy,
I want the previous year and I want this year.
Yeah, it'll probably come in, Eric will do it out of my office, so copy me on it, that we can,
Can you tell me what the revised code is? The one revised code.
Wait a minute. Budget is in the minutes on the website, right?
I'm not going to slow it down.
All you gotta do is, if you want.
Just go on the website, Brian.
The whole budget's on there.
Right.
This one here now is two.
Well, it would,
Yeah,
When
but
do
the
you think it'll
old
be
one
on there?
is, yeah.
well, it won't be on there until you guys approve it next week.
Oh, the minutes,
Next
once the
meeting.
minutes are approved.
No,
I thought they wanted last
I
year.
want the whole work form and everything, all the
Oh, I don't have
information
any of
was
that.
put together on the forms of the public hearing, because the revised code said it has to be put out 30 days to the public before it can be approved, and that didn't. So that's what I'm looking for the information. Okay, so I'll put
It's fine. Just remember the budget was out in July and in
No,
November.
I asked.
Okay.
I came here and asked, and I asked for dates, when we were gonna have hearings. I asked you, and I asked Commissioner Moore, and I was told they were forthcoming, and they never came.
Well, and the only reason that we didn't is everybody got their ass and it was already on the
Well,
record.
you gave them their ask because you got $6.1 million in ARPA funds, and that's how you gave it to them. So in all reality, but you never told the public that until last week, that that's how you did it. So in all reality, you didn't follow.
We had to wait for the auditor to weigh in to Casey.
I understand, I just want the information, all the worksheets, everything went through for the last 2 years.
All three of us.
So wherever you sign it.
I can't believe that I got through that without coughing fit, Teresa.
I know, he was coughing down there.
I could not believe it.
I got rid of my dump in here and it was something.